So today's agenda is going to be very much focused on the microbial active ingredients industry. We plan to certainly provide you with an overview of the market. In addition to that, we plan to talk about the different factors that have been affecting the industry's development over the last decade, and of course, most recently. And following that, we plan to lead on to talking a little bit about the next upcoming divestment that's coming onto horizon, which is the IFF microbial control business. So we have a couple of slides where we'll look into the opportunities and look into the chemistries and the outlook essentially for the IFF business itself. So without further ado, what I'd like to start off with is a light background into why Klein is doing this presentation. Well, Klein is a market research company with a management consulting offering. As Vera pointed out, this presentation is very much being delivered by our consulting team, who have been supporting our clients with strategic decisions for their organic and inorganic growth objectives. Our consultancy practice has end-to-end market expertise, which has served the industry for over 60 years. Our consulting team is actually split into two practices, which serves our clients who are active in raw materials, specialty chemicals and materials, that is specialty chemicals, materials production, through to consumer goods businesses as well. And of course, we also serve the investor community with their market and technical needs as well. So if we were to take an example of our microbial active ingredients service offering, Klein has actually served this particular market for over 50 years. So we leverage our market and competitive intelligence services in all microbial active ingredients, serving producers, formulators, and consumer product manufacturers in personal care, home care, industrial and institutional cleaning segments, through to industrial applications such as oil and gas, crop protection, and other industries listed on this particular slide here. We've supported clients with their market entry strategy development for specific ingredients, that are specific microbial active ingredients. We've supported our clients by sizing the market opportunity for them, identifying relevant applications by country or by region, through to helping them develop a go-to-market strategy and identifying accelerators to success. So we've helped clients gather country-specific market supply data, supply demand data even, for biocides used in specific applications. We've also provided M&A support services in terms of identifying acquisition opportunities, potential partnerships, and also delivering on commercial and technical due diligence services as well. So our services are global and are made possible with our international footprint while leveraging our international expert associate community. Our project teams are typically staffed with seasoned management consultants and operating executives from the chemicals industry, essentially. So going on to the next slide here, one of the other key core elements about Klein's capabilities and why, again, we feel strong about presenting this particular webinar today is that Klein has developed our market research reports on microbial active ingredients since the 1960s, and with our first reports covering the North American market. So as we gained recognition for the quality of our data, the industry became increasingly consolidated and globalized. So while Klein went on to expand its research remit and included not just the US market, but we also included Europe, which is currently the EU 27, and Britain, while the Asian markets, we typically cover China, Japan, and India. So Klein is currently working on or promoting an off-the-shelf report on the Brazilian market as well. So we hope that will also prove to be of interest to the industry. And so as a result of our history with active ingredients, we have developed quite an extensive network of contacts within the industry who contribute to our reports, our services, through unstructured interviews and their breadth of experience. Our global team is very well known to the industry, and client management consultancy team leverages the market knowledge gathered when working on specific client issues. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague Narinder Raju, who's been delivering some fantastic engagements on the active ingredients market. So Narinder, over to you.
Thanks, Hardeep. Hello, everyone. Our aim in the next 30+ minutes is to provide you an overview of developments in the antimicrobial industry, from regulatory to COVID impact to green alternatives, and finally the recent M&A activity that, within the industry. Look at the value chain for the biocide industry. This is a fairly complex value chain with several intermingling relationships. It is not uniform across different applications. This is more of a representative value chain. Biocide active producers either supply actives either directly or through distributors to the end users. That's probably the simplest form of relationship, but depending upon the application segment, there are more complex relationships as well. In the past one decade, several of the formulators have entered the market, and there's an increased interest in formulators in the recent past. Several of the active producers also ventured into formulations to gain the value out of the market. We believe going forward, we will see more and more collaborations happening in the formulation side of the business to develop more sustainable, safer alternatives and solutions in various application markets. With that, we will go to, this is a top-level view of the overall demand by value for the antimicrobial industry. We estimate the market is to be valued at $6 billion. We have shown the key markets that we cover as part of our market research and the database. Again, the point to note here is this is really at the active ingredient level, and the application mix is really region specific. We see North America is the largest market, followed by Europe, and the applications are broadly categorized into two segments. One is industrial applications and consumer applications. Consumer applications includes hygiene, personal care, and some segments within paints and coatings as well. The next slide is a snapshot of the application mix. There are 8 key applications that contribute to a overall biocide demand of $6 billion. Wood preservation is by far the largest application, but with the current environment, personal care and hygiene are the fastest growing application segments that we see in this application. Oil and gas, industrial, water treatment, and crop protection are some of the other key application markets that we see. In order to understand the overall outlook for the biocide industry, it is important to understand the key growth drivers by application segments. Again, as I said, the application mix is really region specific. Some of the applications, for instance, wood preservation, most of the demand is in US, while oil and gas applications are the demand comes from specific regions. So at Klein, that's what we do. We look at our researchers research regional markets with our global presence, and we try and understand the regional trends and drivers for each of the markets to arrive at an overall global outlook for this industry. Right. So before we go to the next slide, where we'll bring up a polling question.
Yes, thank you, Narendra. I'm bringing our second polling question right now. I've started it. Other than the impact of COVID, what is the most important development or trend influencing the dynamics across the microbial active ingredients industry over the next 5 years? I'll give you a few moments to think about it. And Narendra, I hope you can hear me. There's actually a quick question about the pulp and paper industry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see it?
I can't see the question.
That question, actually, it's a very good question. We typically classify it under the industrial water treatment segment, because that's where the biocides, the active ingredients, tend to be used in the pulp and paper industry. So we typically tend to classify it in industrial water treatment.
Thanks, Adib. That's correct. So industrial water treatment includes industrial cooling water, pulp and paper industry, as well as recreational water. These are the three important application segments that we got as part of our industrial water treatment.
Great, thank you. And I'm ending the polling questions. It looks like everybody's done. And Hardeep or Narendra, please take over the commenting, because the answers are very straightforward.
No, absolutely. So thank you very much. It's been, we've had 31 people and we've got quite a number of people who are attending. Still a good number of selections here. So yeah, I mean, I would argue, is sustainability something that's really been accelerated because of COVID, or is sustainability something that we've always looked into and been concerned about, you know, not just in the world of active ingredients, but other chemical and material segments too. But it's obviously it's very, you know, it's very clear that, you know, one of the key drivers to this industry that's really influenced the development of this industry, particularly in the Western markets, is by far regulations. And sustainability, you know, the outlook, we've already seen some products being phased out because of their environmental impact, as well as their toxicity levels and so forth, affecting wildlife and human life, essentially. So yeah, this is certainly meets what we thought, but I'm curious to know what the other might have been. So I suppose that's something well, hopefully we'll find out soon enough.
Thanks, Adib. Those are certainly very interesting polling results. So we are some biocide industry. These are the 4 mega trends that shape the biocide industry. Not all the applications are positively impacted. There are certain applications which have negative impact on the mega trends as well. We see applications like home care, crop protection, water treatment are positively impacted by demographic changes. We see population growth, income growth, urbanization, and building of megacities in the emerging markets to drive the demand for crop protection, home and personal care. Water treatment is another area which would have a positive impact on the demographic changes that I've mentioned. Geopolitics, the productionary, the trade policies that we have been seeing has an impact, especially on the industrial side of the business, industrial biocides business, industrial preservation, material protection applications. We also expect some of the reshoring of manufacturing into ES. In addition to geopolitics, the reduction, the overall reduction in the oil and gas production, lowest interest rates that we are witnessing, also may have impact on the overall demand for industrial biocides. And the environmental concerns and sustainability are some of the key challenges that the industry there's a growing awareness towards environmental concerns. We believe industrial water is an area that will be positively impacted by the environmental concerns. There's a growing need for safer energy, water, and energy. So industrial water, cooling water application is an area that would be driven by increase in power generation needs in the emerging markets. Some of the other industrial applications, paints and coatings, are being more regulatory driven. Stringent regulations are in place on paints and coatings and plastics, oil and gas applications. These will have these applications tend to have a negative impact on the overall market.
Super. Thank you, Narinder. Narinder, just one quick question here. We have, I'm presuming it's with regards to the market demand size that we've quoted. The question is, are these values ex-manufacturing prices? And you and I had a conversation about this the other day, and I was wondering if you would like to respond to this question.
Yeah, essentially, these are at the pricing. I mean, the question is about pricing, right?
Well, it's asking whether the demand value, because we've estimated the market, overall global market demand at $6 billion.
$6 billion, yeah.
Yes. So the question is, are these values ex-manufacturing prices?
These are ex-manufacturing prices.
Super. So this is great. 4 key mega trends affect industry. Not all of them are having a positive effect.
That's right, yes. Okay, so next slide, we will talk about regulatory developments. Biocides is a regulatory-driven business, and the industry itself has a very complex regulatory framework. We see some regions are more stringent in terms of the regulatory approval process and regulatory guidelines, while others are more relaxed. What we understand here is, again, understanding the regulation is the key to understand the outlook for this business. There is an increasing conservative risk assessment policies and models followed by the regulatory bodies across the globe. And we see the overall process in the past 1.5 decades has started stabilizing. Really, the most useful biocides will be remaining in the market. One of the other important factor to note here is the overall approval timelines and approval costs have become prohibitively high. And this will have impact not just on new producers entering the market, but also new actives that will be developed into the market. So overall, there's a higher regulatory pressure which will drive out the actives which are sensitizers, endocrine disruptors, and hormone releasers. But at the same time, the regulatory agencies are pushing out for higher, lengthier approval process. Essentially, the industry will remain with less number of actives going forward. There is also drive to develop more sustainable, greener alternatives and safer products. My colleague Felicia will talk more about recent developments in green chemistries and sustainability.
Thank you, Narinder. Hello, everyone. So as Narinder said, what we're seeing right now is that the market is driven mainly by the regulatory authorities and regulations, mainly in Europe by the BPR. But what we're also seeing, as Narendra also said, is that there is this recent trend, which is the increase in demand for sustainable and green products. So this sustainability of the products, they are mainly measured and certified by organizations like the EU Eco Label from the European Commission. We also have the German Blue Angel or the Nordic Swan certification, and there are many more. And on the right-hand side with the logos, you can see some figures. And these figures are from the EU Eco Label between March and September 2020. So that's basically the first 6 months of the COVID. It shows the newly registered products within that time period. And you can see that within the 6 months, there are 1,300 newly certified hard surface cleaning products. And this is counted as one of the top 4 products with the highest increase in newly certified products under EU Eco Label. And the thing is that EU Eco Label, they have a lot of product types. It ranges, for example, from growing media and gardening to electronic equipments to things like textiles and furnitures. And here you can also see the 3 percentages. These are the relative increase in number of newly registered products under EU Eco Label as well. And these 3 are actually 3 out of the top 4 most products with the most increase within all the product types covered by EU Eco Label. So we have indoor cleaning services, industrial laundry detergents, and hand washing detergents. So all these 3 out of the 4 top product types with highest relative increase, they're all related to cleaning. So what does it mean? It means that one of the main drivers for sustainable ingredients, they come from the H&I segment. The majority are probably consumer driven, but we also have to point out that this also doesn't really cover just the biocide, but it also covers other ingredients such as packaging, for example, recycled plastic packaging. And if you look further into the certifications, we see that large formulators and consumer goods companies, they are determined to go for greener and more sustainable ingredients. So that means biocide players such as Lonza, Evonik, Solvay, and so on, they need to start being aware of trying to produce more sustainable ingredients suitable for products that can be certified with these green credentials. Maybe a quick and short medium strategy would be to focus on improving operational emissions for more sustainable productions or through some circular economy initiatives. It doesn't really necessarily need to be about biocides. However, in the long run, we do think that they should start looking into developing new actives and products which meet these green credentials to keep up with this trend. So far, we have not really witnessed a lot yet. There are already some alternative products classified as active microbial ingredients, but a lot of them are not approved yet, especially under the BPR. We have, for example, thymol, which is highly effective against bacteria and viruses. It's highly effective against the COVID virus, for example. It is a microbial active ingredient based on natural source. However, it is not approved as a biocide under BPR in Europe. Other green microbial actives include lactic acid, citric acid, glycolic acid, benzoic acid, hydrogen peroxide, and organic alcohols, and there are some more. Lactic acid, for example, is already used in a lot of products, including a hand dish cleaner from Palmolive, for example, or some disinfecting spray for hard surface cleaning. We also have hydrogen peroxide. It is considered as green too, and it is also considered as an alternative sanitizing agent for hard surface cleaning. So in general, there are green alternatives or microbial active ingredients out there. However, these actives, they need to be monitored in terms of the approval processes, so we can see when these actives are likely to come through and serve the HI&I and consumer segment. And now Narendra will continue the presentation with the COVID effects on the industry.
Thanks, Felicia. During summer of 2020, we have surveyed about 500 respondents to understand the impact of COVID-19 on the various industries and how the overall rebound would look like in terms of time frame and size of rebound. Every market has a different recovery phase, and the pandemic is possibly impacting some end-use markets, especially hygiene-driven markets are possibly impacted. There are economic slowdown has impacted several of the industrial and construction markets. So overall, due to the sustainability is another factor that has slowed down during this period. Again, the priority was to create more opportunities, more products in hygiene. That was a temporary slowdown of sustainability. Hygiene application remains by far the largest market, and the acquired hygiene habits due to COVID are likely to remain post-COVID during the next normal as well. So we understand overall hygiene product demand is unlikely to fall back after COVID. Some of the industrial applications that we see are oil and gas. May have a negative impact. We saw the overall fracking production in US has almost declined to half from the same month previous year, and the construction industry also is negatively impacted. We see paints and coatings, adhesives and sealants are some of the applications which would be unlikely in the shorter term to come back to the pre-COVID levels, and we expect the growth will be the overall rebound will be much slower. Hygiene, from our survey, we believe the overall growth outlook for hygiene will be 4 to 6% for the next 4 years, 2021-2025 time frame. We have seen home and personal hygiene growth so far, but going forward with lockdowns lifted, we are likely to see more of institutional hygiene demand, hospitals, restaurants and schools and so on. So that's another major driver. The long-term impact of COVID on various industrial application segments is still uncertain, and the size of the recovery and the timeline for the recovery is still uncertain. Recovery largely depends upon two key industrial application segments: automotive, which would drive the demand for metals, plastics, and other material production applications. The speed of recovery within the automotive industry would drive the long-term demand for the antimicrobials in that space. Construction, on the other hand, is also impacted, and we see the demand will be a rebound with the increase in the construction activity. Oil and gas continues to reduce the production. The speed of recovery in the oil and gas industry will have an impact on the overall demand for the application chemistries that are used in oil and gas. Right. With that, another interesting area, I mean, even with the current economic slowdown, we continue to see a a significant activity in the mergers and acquisitions. Hardeep will take us through current M&A activity and the future outlook for the M&A activity in the industry.
Thanks, Narinder. So yes, absolutely. The M&A activities are certainly shaping up the chemicals landscape, including businesses that are very much active in microbial control. So the chemicals industry has certainly been restructuring itself with a lot of divestitures, restructuring and so forth. But we've seen the Dow-DuPont merger enable portfolio redistribution and rationalization. We've seen firms like Clariant, Lanxess, Lonza, Ashland, Sealed Air, Schülke, and so many more active in M&A activities over the recent months alone. So active ingredients industry is clearly not a stranger to M&A activity. In 2009, Dow acquired Rohm & Haas, which enabled it to strengthen its position in segments including coatings, building and construction, specialty materials, adhesives and functional polymers, as well as the electronic materials as well. We went on to see Acros Chemicals and Dow Microbial Control hold a strategic relationship, or pull together a strategic relationship for plastics biocides. We saw more divestments and acquisitions take place when we saw Ashland's acquisition of ISP, Lonza's acquisition of Arch Chemicals, of course, Troy's acquisition of Ashland's industrial biocidal business. While in more recent years, we've seen the Dow-DuPont merger lead to the shifting of the Dow microbial business into that microbial controls business even into the DuPont nutrition and biosciences business, which of course earlier this year was fully acquired by IFF, a flavor and fragrance business. And then we also witnessed Lonza sell its water treatment business to Platinum Equity back in 2018, while the remaining biocides portfolio was sold this year to Cinven and Bain at quite a significant multiplier, to be fair. We saw Air Liquide divest Schülke in 2020, while the personal care part of the business was acquired by Ashland this year. Lanxess this year also went on to acquire Kamala. And so, you know, we certainly think that M&A has been keeping the industry very active. And we speculate that there is certainly room for a lot more activity on the horizon. And our speculations indicate that the IFF divestment is certainly online for this year, perhaps the latter half or the early part of the latter half of this year. We expect to see a lot more rationalization on the LSI portfolio, and not just rationalization. We would expect to see some more growth, investments in areas that they're not so strong in, and also regions perhaps. We're also expecting to see Lanxess to consolidate and see more growth from their Kamala acquisitions, and hopefully more in the near future. And developments in hygiene and more partnerships or joint ventures to enable client companies to extend into new markets are certainly also driving growth for this business. So the next slide, Narendra, please. So overall, I suppose microbial active ingredients have several opportunities from developing innovative complementary formulations, sustainable products, to expanding into new and emerging markets even. However, there is a universal law which dictates that to truly thrive universally in the positive, you would need to be exposed to some challenges, of course. So our consultants have certainly pulled together a list of opportunities and challenges that we see affecting this industry. And of course, from the opportunities perspective, we certainly think that demographic changes are a positive influence on this industry. For disinfectants as well as hygiene products as also a positive contributor to growth. The development of sustainable products and solutions, the industry continues to look into this. and the move away from harmful and desensitizing ingredients, enables growth for other biocidal ingredients. We also see opportunities for growth in emerging markets, which will be discussed in more details in our next webinar, which takes place, I believe, on the 22nd of May, and will be held by our esteemed colleague, Nicola Matek. In terms of the challenges, we certainly foresee challenges related to the continued stringent regulatory review process, which of course does serve an important purpose. Other challenges we foresee are evolving consumer habits, declining demand for industrial preservatives, and also the high barriers for product development. But nonetheless, these are areas that we certainly do think that the industry will overcome these challenges and benefit from some progressive growth. So moving on to the next slide.
We should have a polling.
I think we have a polling question,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm going to launch it in a second. Here we go. Now it's in progress. The question is, what do you expect to drive the growth in microbial active ingredients?
Especially now that the audience has heard our views. Brilliant. Okay, the voting seems to have slowed. Oh, no, maybe not.
Yeah, I think we're ready to stop. I'm stopping right now, okay? Ready, steady, go.
Okay, thank you, Vera. Right, so now that you've heard all of our thoughts in terms of what are driving developments in this industry, it's obviously the regulatory developments is going to continue to be something that's going to shape the market, shape the industry, shape developments of products and so forth as well. Of course, and I'm really glad to see this, that the next highly voted component of this question is product development, and indeed product development in terms of the life, the duration it takes to develop the product and approve the product and so forth is a barrier. But nonetheless, there is, regulations, I suppose, are driving the need to consistently come up with new products, alternative products, with improved performances and reduce environmental impact as well. I think, did we have a raise of hand or a question?
I don't see anything.
I saw something flag up. Sorry, someone's raised their hand. I think it's Alex. Okay, Alex, could I ask? Oh no, it's Jose Mosquera. Can we allow him to talk since he's raised his hand?
Did it come up on the? Oh, I see. It came up in participant section. Yes. Sure. I'm unmuting right now. If it works. You'll have to. I gave you the permission.
Oh no, I don't know how to do this. So
Yeah, I gave Jose the permission, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to work. So maybe if you write the question into the Q&A chat, for some reason it doesn't let me. Maybe it was done by accident.
Maybe, okay. So let's move on then, without further ado. I'm sure we've all got places to go after this webinar too.
Right. So next couple of slides, we attempt to talk briefly about the much anticipated IFF DuPont Microbial Control Solutions divestment, its portfolio, opportunities within the portfolio, and so on. So moving to the next slide, yes. So according to sources, this business could be valued at $1 to $1.5 billion. Our specialty Biocides report covers all the application segments to the level of chemistries for the application that IFF microbial control solutions currently serves. The IFF portfolio of microbials is more industrial focused, in terms of geography, it's more balanced. It's largely North America and Europe. North America, close to 50% is understandably because IFF microbials has a stronger presence in applications like oil and gas, industrial water treatment, and so on. If the opportunities arise, there's growth opportunities that arises for Asian markets, we believe IFF is well positioned to address those markets as well. If you look at the application breakdown, application segment, oil and gas IFF has a very strong presence in oil and gas application. Other prominent applications within IFF's portfolio are paints and coatings, water treatment, and industrial preservation applications. We have a very detailed analysis on each of these applications to the chemistry level in our database. We follow these application markets regionally on a regular basis, and really the key chemistries. There are about 20 plus key chemistries, key microbial actives within IFF microbial control business, but certain chemistries are really key. So for instance, glutaraldehyde is a key chemistry that's used in oil and gas applications. Isothionols which includes CMIT, MIT, BAT, and other chemistries, which is also an important chemistry as well. That's briefly about the IFF microbial business. The key value proposition is really into industrial preservation, and so far the focus has been on industrial markets, but HI&I, hygiene applications, IFF also has a prominent presence, and going forward we see that presence much broader opportunities. And with that, we'll move to the next slide where we talk about competitive landscape. We have listed top 5 highest revenue generating end markets for IFF microbials and what is the competitive landscape looks like. And as we have spoken, food preservation has been focused. Oil and gas is definitely one of the key markets for IFF microbials. Oil and gas application market is a very fairly concentrated supply base with few number of suppliers. Industrial protection, industrial preservation applications like industrial cooling water, material protection, paints and coatings are key markets as well. HI&I has been a market which has gained importance in the current environment, and we see that's an area going forward. There's a room for improvement in HI&I applications for this portfolio. We track all the applications and chemistries, but in view of the time, we have picked one application market, which is HI&I, and see what is the current position of the IFF microbials and where the opportunities lies. That will be in the next slide. As we said, there's a prominent position with several application markets: laundry, cleaning solutions, sanitizing. IFF is definitely a significant player in this area, but the use of preservation know-how and the taking advantage of current hygiene, sanitation trends, this portfolio could be expanded to develop more sustainable and safer alternatives to the chemistry that we are seeing. For instance, MIT free additives is an area that certainly to be focused going forward.
So Narinder, sorry to interrupt here. We're looking at the clock, of course. I just thought let us summarize perhaps here in terms of what is the overall application, the outlook for IFF perhaps, so just at a high level from our perspective. Is that something you'd like to do, or would you like me to carry on for you?
Yes, certainly, you can carry on.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
Just before you carry on,
sure.
I just want to highlight a point. So we see the overall decline in the industrial application markets. But HI&I and hygiene-related applications is an area that has a potential to compensate the decline that is expected in the short to mid term in the various markets. So that's definitely an area that needs to be focused. Again, the emerging markets are certainly a growth area, market for not just this business, but several of the large microbial active ingredients producers. We see literally a small presence in Asian markets. That's an area where we see a lot of investments, in terms of joint ventures and collaborations going forward. So yeah, with that, Aditya, please feel free to add more.
Well, I haven't got anything more to add to that, of course. I think you've done a fantastic job in highlighting the key elements around the IFF microbial control business portfolio. It's certainly very clear that the world of HI&I is going to be offering quite a substantial opportunity to the business and to the portfolio. It's not as big a portfolio, of course, as the Lonza specialty ingredients portfolio was, but nonetheless, one to be reckoned with, a strong competitor against LSI, of course. So it's pretty clear that the hygiene area is what's going to be driving demand for some of the portfolio products, new technologies, advanced sustainable solutions, innovative products are clearly what's going to be driving sales. Also, of course, in the longer term, demand for industrial preservatives for applications, including oil and gas, metals, plastics, and paints and coatings, should start to recover, in the longer term, of course. So, if we were to summarize everything that we've said today, I don't think this industry is under preservation, but I think it would be fair to say that we said that this microbial active ingredients industry is definitely very active and ready to do a lot more. So Vera, over to you.
Over to me, yes. And let's move it to a final slide because we have contact information there. We also have a final polling question. We'd like to hear your opinion. It's not compulsory, but we'd love to hear your opinion on as a client, we constantly seek ways to stay relevant to our clients and would appreciate understanding whether your business could benefit from any of the following. If any of the following will be relevant to you, would like to hear more about this, please use this opportunity to tell us. And if there's something else, please get in touch with us.
Absolutely. Our contact details are definitely there for you to get in touch with us. And I'm loving the market mapping workshops bit.
There will also, as Hardeep already mentioned, there will be another webinar in May. All of you will receive the invitations. Feel free to join. But definitely will have a different angle, looking at the market overall trends and numbers, very specific. It'll be looking at each application separately. So I think it will also be very interesting for you. So I will be sending you the invitation probably next week or expected from us this month for sure. And I guess this is it. If you have any questions, as I said, you can always respond to the email that will be coming from webinars@klangroup.com, or you can take a note here and connect with Hardeep, Narinder, or Felicia. And I'm going to end the session. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you. Thanks to our chemicals team for a wonderful presentation. We hope to see you again all in May, whether as presenters or as the audience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you, team. And thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.